Welcome back to the Skiff. We weren't able to get the entire Eurobytes episode in. That'll be loaded on all our channels later today. So you'll be able to see it, and we'll stream it across X and Getter later today or tomorrow. All right, we're ready for Ukraine SitRep. I'm going to bring in my colleague, Pete Blaber, who's got a lot to talk about today. So here we go. Pete, thanks for joining me this morning.
Great to be here as always, Todd, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Yes, we're into 2026. Is it going to be a year of peace or a year of more war, Pete?
Yeah, well, I'm banking on peace, and I'll reveal a little more about that today. But it's not a clear path. It takes some leaders, specifically on the American side, to stand up for freedom, stand up for what's right, and just ignore this insanity that continues to be propagated by the globalists and these warmongers, especially in the US and in Europe.
Yeah, it's insane. That is very, very true. What's going on in Europe? I mean, I just had my European guys on and they're aghast, but Europe has to take back its place in the world and leadership also, and sanity, I should say.
Right.
So,
and just again on that, and I caught a little bit of your Euro. It was interesting, and you and I have said this the whole time. You and I personally are up for participating in a rescue mission to rescue most of Europe from the insanity that they're being held hostage under right now, and we can empathize because we went through the same thing, but like you just said, we were able to break out of it. Donald Trump, I'll just say it out loud, deserves huge historical credit for that. Probably one of the only politicians that could have broken through like that. And he saved the republic. It's not hyperbolic to say that. But that's what needs to happen in Europe. Our criticism whenever we say EU is we're talking about the EU leaders. Just like when we say the US and the EU started the Ukraine war, we're talking about the Biden and Obama administrators, non-elected officials who started it, not we, the people of the United States.
Well, the EU needs to go away, in my opinion. And I think back when Brexit actually happened, I think that, and Trump came on the scene, I think they decided to go full tyranny and try to stop what was coming. But, the jury's still out, but hopefully that won't be successful. All right, I've got a bunch here. The first one is the video with Zelensky. Should I throw that up or?
Yeah. So we're just going to start with the peace talks. We normally, to our viewers, we normally start on the battlefield, but we're, making a conscious decision because we believe the peace talks are more important. So we'll get to the battlefield in the second half. Start with the peace talks that and what has transpired over the last few days, the Christmas break, if you will. And once again, as we alluded to, it's a study in contrast. We actually have low visibility or clandestine peace talks going on between the U.S. and Russia in Mar-a-Lago, while simultaneously we have clandestine keep the war going talks going on between EU and Zelensky in Europe. And the dates on that: December 20th, Kirill Dmitriev arrived in Miami for talks with Kushner and Witkoff, focused on the U.S. authored peace plan for Ukraine. Those talks were described as productive by Dmitriev and Kushner and Witkoff. Dmitriev went right back to Russia to brief President Putin, and Witkoff and Kushner briefed President Trump. You notice you didn't hear anything. This is an adaptive, an example of the administration adapting to what we're talking about. Every time they make a step forward for peace, a counter step is taken by the let's keep the war going crowd. And so we'll get to it in a minute. 8 days after Dmitriev, Zelensky obviously showed up to meet with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and we'll talk about the results of that. But in between, before he even got to the U.S., that's what you're looking at here. Russia and Ukraine on Christmas night traded a massive barrage of drone strikes. But that night, Zelensky decided to give this address to the people of Ukraine. And in that address, he basically wished that, Putin would be killed. And to me, this is another, what you're seeing in real time is the global propaganda network's main messenger delivering the main message. And his exact words, for anyone who wants to know, is may Putin perish. Each of us may think to ourselves, and it's an example. There's no purpose or logic to that statement. There's no, here's why we want Putin to perish. Here's why he's the bad guy. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the globalists need a surrogate of fear and hatred so they can keep personalizing the war. Notice there's no logic of why they're fighting. And that's where Zelensky, who all these ex-generals have called the, Churchillian, that's where he's completely failed. And he's the opposite of Churchill. Churchill gave these great addresses we still hear in movies and, on TV today to motivate his people. Zelensky's done none of that. And, we see the same thing going on with the forced conscripts, people fleeing the country. But this is the Dem playbook. It's the same technique. Anyone who's paying attention will recognize that they've been using on President Trump since 2016. And it's a psychological manipulation technique. It's personalize an issue that has absolutely no association with the personality, and but associate that person with fear and danger and harm, and you'll accomplish what you want. The human brain takes shortcuts, and that's what it does. So worldwide, Putin derangement system is probably as severe or getting even worse than Trump derangement system. They both come from the same playbook, the globalist playbook. So,
all right, here we go. Is Zelensky's video?
Yep.
Well, why isn't that rolling? Hold on.
Дорогий народе, здавна українці вірили, що в ніч на Різдво відкриваються небеса. І якщо розказати їм свою мрію, вона точно здійсниться. Сьогодні мрія у всіх нас одна. І бажання ми загадуємо одне на всіх. Що б він сконав? Скаже кожен про себе. Але коли звертаємось до Бога, звісно, ми просимо ширше. Просимо про мир для України. Ми боремось за це.
I won't play the rest of that.
Yeah, no.
That is blasphemous. He's sitting there in front of Christmas decorations talking about murdering someone on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
That is,
dude, you can't make it up.
He's not even Christian.
Yeah, so, and just what you said, even like if you just grabbed an arbitrary team of PR people and brought them together and said, what should he talk about? He's trying to curry favor with President Trump and the negotiators. He's trying to get his way, supposedly. You would never say that. And this is after Dmitriev has been in Mar-a-Lago meeting, sleeves rolled up for 3 or 4 days. So he knows that. He knows he's behind the power curve. He knows truthfully he's standing on hollow ground anyway, and that it's all a lie. But what you're seeing there is he's already telling us that these negotiations to him are nothing more than a PR stunt. He has no real interest in compromising, in trade-offs, in doing what's right for his people. And so what you're going to see in these follow-on messages is how that plays out, what their strategy, the EU and Zelensky's strategy is now, given what they see happening, the closer relationship between Russia and the US. President Trump, by the way, President Trump's been completely corrected. Again, don't want to claim our podcast too much credit, but I was told that they definitely, I've already told you the one individual who contacted me, and President Trump yesterday, instead of talking about Russian casualties, said an accurate fact. He said last month 26,000 Ukrainians died in combat. That's disgusting, and he's right, and that's an accurate number. That's he's finally using. So he's not getting
Keith
that.
Kellogg, we got rid of Keith.
Yeah, I know it. And I saw that article you sent me, and it's
Yeah.
hilarious because it's from the New York Times. And New York Times, because everything they print is propaganda, when they try to reference something, they're tripping over their own propaganda. And that's what that article is, because if Trump called him an idiot, if that's true, then Trump called him what a term he earned on his own, with it, whether it was his bumbling use of his personal cell phone over there as he toured the Ukrainian battlefield, or his blatant conflict of interest traveling around using his daughter's NGO as his conduit and his headquarters and his operational support element for all of his time there. You can't even make it up. It's on a level with Burisma and Hunter Biden, what he did over there. So,
Well,
again, getting
let me
rid of
jump
him
in
was
there.
huge.
There's something else about that video, in that Zelensky is, as we speak, and has been for 3 or 4 years, persecuting the Christian church in Ukraine.
Yeah.
He's stealing churches. He's burning churches. There's a video we posted of his SBU with chainsaws sawing down the door of a monastery and coming in and beating the priests. There are parishioners in the woods meeting for their church services because they're scared to go to the church. This is a 1,000-year-old church where Ukrainians get married, where they had their baptisms, where they had funerals for their family for 1,000 years. And you're destroying that church. And of course, the excuse is it's affiliated with the Russians, which is not true. There's no formal link between the two churches anymore. They completely separated decades ago. So it's insane, and that needs to be said. All right. So the next thing I have is Zelensky talking about Trump dying. Is that right?
Well, yeah. This is the strategy you're seeing, and we pick these to our viewers. We pick our videos carefully because we corroborate them, or they corroborate what we've been told on the ground. And this, you can just see, we'll show more supporting data for this, but it's their strategy now. It's not to let's make peace happen. We're going to do it. I'm talking EU and Zelensky. Their strategy is to wait out President Trump. And clearly, Zelensky is a puppet. He's got no position on anything. And like any puppet, he can't move unless the puppet masters move him. And so everything that comes out of his mouth, to include that nightly speech, is partially driven by this globalist network. It's the Soros network.
Yes.
It's these EU leaders, Ursula von der Leyen.
They're all actors. They're all actors for somebody.
They are, but they're feeding him. And then, not to exonerate the warmongers in the U.S., people like Lindsey Graham and the rest of these individuals we've shown throughout who parade through there, they're all whispering in the ear the exact wrong advice to Zelensky. And that's what makes this thing so sad. This war, these deaths are continuing because a bunch of individuals who've never even stepped foot in the wilderness, much less a battlefield, are egging on the leaders of Ukraine to keep fighting, keep pushing until they fight to the last Ukrainian. So go ahead and play it. And
here we go.
The United States have their policy. They don't see us in NATO. For now. Everything in our lives is for now. Maybe the position will change in the future. Maybe somebody will come to realize that strong Ukrainian army strengthens NATO, and not vice versa. Politicians change. Somebody lives, somebody dies. And it's life.
What do you think of that, Pete?
Yeah, I think it's just, and you'll see a couple more supporting data points. So, if you remember 3 weeks ago on our Ukraine SitRep, we showed a video of MERS, and it came from Germany, leaked transcripts from his conversation with the other EU leaders after a round of after that round of talks between Trump and Putin on the phone, where they talked about meeting in Hungary.
Hmm.
And in that, MERS said, MERS is, below the cut line, just between you and me. Trump is not with us. We got to wait him out. And
Yeah.
that's what I mean about that no one could believe that who was actually understood the U.S. and where the direction this country's going and what the people of this country believe in. But if you've got these nut jobs whispering in your ear, and let's just say it, the Democratic Party,
Yes.
desperate men make desperate moves. They still are clinging to the belief they can somehow oust President Trump with their fake election tools, or corruption, just in general, the way they did it last time. And that's what's being promulgated over to Europe into Zelensky's ear. But I believe everything shows this, and we're going to see it with with some of these follow-ons. We're going to see Ursula von der Leyen and some of the EU actions that support that.
All right.
So again, we're pressure testing a pattern here, and that's what these next few videos are about.
So this next one, I'm going down the list you gave me. This is
Yeah.
about
This is
Zelensky.
Zelensky just responding. So he met why Dmitriev is planning the peace. These guys met together, and then Zelensky, it's crazy that he sends out these things on Twitter, because this is what I meant by propaganda trips over propaganda.
Hmm.
He thinks that showing unity, and that that him and the Europeans are together, but what he's actually just showing is that this is a cabal. This
Yes.
is where his guidance comes from. You notice he's not meeting with the Rada. He's not meeting with local mayors or townspeople. He's not meeting with Ukrainians. He's meeting with the EU. And if you just scroll down a little bit,
That's all I got in that one.
he
Sorry.
basically is just saying, "Hey, we recommitted to our priorities together. We're going to talk as one. I'm ready to go meet with President Trump, and I will call, the rest of the heads on my shoulder as soon as I can when the meeting ends." And he did that. He called immediately afterwards, did a equivalent of a secure Zoom with these EU leaders. So it's parallel negotiations, and when you juxtapose the two of them, it's amazing that it's even happening.
So here's the follow-on to that with Ursula.
Yeah. So, yep. So again, I'll just read it. We've just touched base with several leaders ahead of tomorrow's meeting with President Trump and Zelensky on peace. We welcome all efforts leading to our shared objective, a just and lasting peace that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Ukraine is not a sovereign nation, never has been. So preserving that sovereignty is impossible. And this is the key. This is the key. We welcome all efforts that strengthen the country's security and defense capabilities as an integral part of our security of our continent. She's telling you now blatantly, we've committed to the military industrial complex of Europe that we were going to have these multi-billion-dollar orders. So by God, we're going to keep them going at least through 2026. And her final paragraph says that. In 2026, the EU Commission will continue to keep up the pressure on the Kremlin, sustain our support for Ukraine, and work intensely to accompany Ukraine on its path toward EU membership. So this is the head of the EU, the day before Zelensky goes to peace talks with President Trump about Russia. And what does she talk about? Does she talk about how to get to that peace or how important peace is? No. She talks about, hey, no matter what happens, we're going to keep this thing going next year. And, again, you can't make this up. And this is where propagandists trip over each other. They can't keep their message. Lies, you can never keep lies straight, right?
Correct.
You get tangled up. And so that's what's happening here. She's actually taking a position that just shows blatantly how prejudiced they are against peace. And, the great thing about this show, Todd, is it shows it. The only thing missing is people aren't seeing that. So as key to the global propaganda network as lies and half truths are, not reporting on things is just as important.
Just
And
as
they
bad.
exactly, they hide things like this so you can't see them.
And this is exactly why the United States of America, needs to get out of this, really out of the continent, I think, until things change.
Yeah,
I don't think we
agree.
need to be spending a dime over there. And also, this also highlights Ukraine is made up of a lot of different ethnicities, religions. It's not a uniform country. It's not Japan. It is Balkanized, and it's a Yugoslavia is what it is. And that's why you have the fascists and the Poles in the west. You have the Russians in the east. You have the Turks in the south. The Tartars and all that in Crimea. I mean, it's a variety of ethnic relationships, and that's why the Soviet Union collapsed primarily, because it was that kind of thing there. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, and to add to that, Todd, it's the very definition of a totalitarian state is Ukraine. So a
yes,
totalitarian state, a totalitarian and his state eliminate all competing political parties. The
yes,
first thing
and
Zelensky did,
languages. I mean, they're
but he
harassing
got
the Romanians,
right.
the
He
Hungarians,
then
the Poles.
eliminated language, voting, pension,
Mm-hmm.
and also church ability to
Yes,
worship.
yes,
So all of these were human rights, massive human rights violations that just, if I
covered
was
up.
ever sitting and able to talk to Zelensky and about Donbass and the five oblasts, uh, my comment to him was, dude, you forfeited any right that the country of Ukraine has to those oblasts. You forfeited it. And the very definition of UN human rights explains and validates that statement.
14,000 dead.
And they can never go back,
Yeah,
because if they go back, they've already continued to commit to ethnic cleansing in their hatred of Russia and
yeah,
Russians, which, Zelensky put an exclamation point on Christmas night.
yeah. Amazing. Here's your next one with Lavrov.
Yeah, so Lavrov, again, the great thing about what's happening and with media channels like this one is we can hear reality, propaganda being countered by reality. And this is real time Lavrov saying Europe does not hide its plans to prepare for war with Russia and has become the main obstacle to peace. And that's what we just showed you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean by tripping over the propaganda. Van der Leyen, it never dawned on her that she was exposing herself, the EU, to just what Lavrov's saying here. And by being able to call it out, remember what we said about propaganda? The number one way to neutralize it is to narrate it, call it out why it's happening, and use the facts of reality to disprove it. And that's what you're seeing right now. But it only happens, this should be on every mainstream media network. They should see the counterpoint. They should see individuals calling out this propaganda. And Lavrov's done a great job of that.
He sure has. And here's your next one.
So this is just an example of Euro propaganda. I had 4 others of these from 4 countries. It's basically the same story, a different version. And what this story is just it's trying to create this false narrative around Donbass, which, remember, is the Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's trying to say what's their interest in it. And in this article, he completely focuses on the energy, the coal mines, the nuclear power plant, and you can't even believe it as you read through it that he's not mentioning that this is a humanitarian mission, as stated by President Putin the day he launched the special military operation. Those 14,000 dead you mentioned and 28,000 amputees from 7 years of bombardment were why they went in there to save their people and to, as a humanitarian mission, as we already talked about. Those people had no pensions, which is what they survived on and what Ukraine owed them, contractually owed them. They were not allowed to speak their language. They weren't allowed to practice religion, and they had no right to vote or any say in who the president was. And that's the reality of it. And that needs to be said. But to just see again such blatant European propaganda, to not mention that the battlefield is a battlefield of Russian people. They started as ethnic Russians. They voted for autonomy, then independence, then unification with Russia. They've already voted overwhelmingly. They carry Russian passports. You'll continue to see this. As I mentioned, there's 4 other articles like that from Europe. This is the propaganda network. They coordinate it and they send it out to blanket the world. This is after the meeting. You can see what happened in the meeting. Remember what we said, let's pressure test the pattern. They don't really want peace. They want to extend the fighting for at least another year. So Zelensky's comment, we respect President Trump and his decision is influential, but of course we need Congress for this, perhaps the Senate or Congress, he said.
Yeah, that's just he's dictating American policy and American governmental actions.
Yeah, but who do you think who whispered that in his ear before that meeting?
Yeah, exactly.
American Democratic congressmen and senators, and a couple of Republican, let's be fair, like Lindsey Graham. And they're whispering in his ear, keep it going. We'll get the money for another year. We'll keep this thing riding along. And that censorship industrial complex continues to be, in my opinion, the main reason. It's where the servers are. It's where they can control and manipulate vote counts across Europe. It's a safe haven. They can launder money there. So that's what they're fighting
human
for.
Trafficking, organ trafficking.
Human trafficking. I learned last night, Ukraine was leading up to 2014 and still is today the #1 surrogate nation on the planet. You can go to Ukraine for a price and get a completely healthy woman to have your baby and then hand that baby over to you and fly away. And again, if there's a definition of a totalitarian regime, it's one that allows behaviors like that in its country.
All right, so here's the next one. I'm just going down the list.
Yep. So we're going to switch to the battlefield. We're going to see what's going on in the battlefield, and this just is. We've mentioned Uye Puye. It's down south. It's a huge. This is a huge development on the battlefield. The loss of Uye Puye is like the loss of the spotted owl in the forest. It's an indicator species. So once Uye Puye falls, in my opinion, strategically, Zaporozhye and Odessa become fait accomplis. This is the linchpin to those 2 key cities. And why is Odessa and Zaporizhia so key? Because all of the logistics in and out of Ukraine come through those 2 cities. And those are the next large cities after Uye Puye. So one of the things that happened was the Russian advance was so rapid and was achieved with such a degree of surprise that the Ukrainian troops had no choice but to retreat as quickly as possible. And for the first time that we're aware of, Russia any side captured a full active battalion headquarters of the armed forces of Ukraine, and with all of its gear, all of its communication gear. And so I'm going to tell you something that I just found out about what they captured. But first, the report on what happened. This one came from right on the ground, it was the raw report that the armed forces of Ukraine and Uyapuya were going through massive turmoil. The unit down there, I think, was the 102nd Separate Troop Brigade, and the report was that their officers were encouraging their subordinates to leave their positions and to surrender. And the report was there's a huge lack of coordination because of this in the city, and positions. Actually, there were fraggings going on, which was called positions being attacked by their own troops.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the report. What really happened is those officers weren't encouraging their men to retreat. They were allowing them to retreat. The common sense officers, we already walked through this in Pavlovsk. You know, as a defender, because you've been laying there studying your sector for, in this case, months. So you know everything about it. You know all the physics of what could and couldn't happen, where your max line of approach, limit of approaches for the enemy before your position becomes untenable. And that's what happened in Uyapuye. And these guys saw it. They said, I'll be damned if I'm going to be trapped like the guys in Myrnograd or in Pokros, and I'm getting out of here. And the smart, small level Ukrainian commanders said, let's do it. Let's get out of here and live to fight another day, which all of Ukraine should be doing right now, Ukrainian military. But some of these guys maintained, you know, the rigid, I'm not going to disobey an order, and stayed. And so the conflict, or the chaos in Uyapuye for Ukraine was just that. It was these guys, you know, not being able to decide whether to stay or whether to go, and then some commanders going, some staying, and that allowed Russia to take it. So I want to play this tape because it's very revealing. This shows you that, you know, again, probably these Ukrainian battalion headquarters were not being given intel from their higher headquarters saying, guys, you're almost going to be overrun here. There's enemy on all sides of you. There's a buildup, like a coiled spring of men and material. They're getting ready to launch a massive attack, which we can't hold based on our numbers down there. And you'll see they left in chaos, and what they left is a treasure trove of intelligence. So let's go ahead and play it. I think it was the one before this, maybe.
Which one is that?
These are this POW. It's the one, let's see, that one you just showed of the map. Wasn't there a
Oh, that one. Okay, this one.
Yeah, and
I
on
didn't have
there
a video with that. I'm sorry.
there's a video on it up top.
I didn't get
video.
that. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So anyway, you can see, let's just keep the pictures up there. It's just an active battalion headquarters. All the maps, you see the maps in there. These laptops, which I read one report, and some useless laptop computer. Well, let me tell you what the guys on the ground reported. Those weren't useless. They were the battalion commanders and the staff officers' personal laptops. Personal meaning you're issued a laptop in the military, and I'm just going to go with a staff officer or a staff NCO. When you come into that job, you get a laptop. Many of the officers and NCOs then move out of that position, or move up or down out of their staff positions to active combat units, which is what most warriors want. So the battalion commander, for instance, was probably on the brigade staff before he became battalion commander. And same thing with his captains. They were probably on battalion and brigade staff. So these computers, they, as it turns out, are full of the plans and strategy and positions of the Ukraine military, from the point of Zaporizhia all the way back to Kyiv. And so this is a massive game-changing intel coup. You know, we're going to see what happens in the next few weeks. But again, sloppy battlefield etiquette. This kind of thing happens when you don't tell your people what's really happening on the ground around them, when you don't give them freedom to make decisions, freedom to adapt to the situation going on around them. These are the command and control problems we've been talking about that have plagued the Ukrainian military from the onset. They were created the wrong way. They were trained on how to command and control the wrong way, and they have the wrong people in charge of their higher levels.
I have that video. I have that video now. I'm going to play it.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty
Мы,
good.
военнослужащие 60-й отдельной мотострелковой бригады 2-го мотострелкового батальона 4-й мотострелковой роты, находимся на улице Соборной, 52. Данное здание было взято нашими военнослужащими 4-й мотострелковой роты, где в дальнейшем оказался штаб 1-го батальона 106-й бригады ТРО ВСУ. Сейчас...
So, should I fast forward or is it?
Yeah. It's only 3 minutes, but he's just telling what they found. He's giving a summary. The diary, journal, phones with all their personal info, photos. This was a huge coup, and that's what I mean is Zaporizhia is in serious jeopardy right now.
Здесь у них рабочая карта находилась. Стол рабочий.
Battalion headquarters, folks. If you're military, you recognize all this stuff.
В дальнейшем выполняли свои действия по защите.
That's maps of positions. They're marked positions. So serious battlefield development and not good for Ukraine. And again, you know, if they were objectively looking at this, as I said, this means this is the road. They just took out the linchpin to Odessa and Zaporizhia. And without Odessa and Zaporizhia, Ukraine can't receive goods from the ocean, from the Black Sea, and they can't export goods. So it's a death knell and a very huge development in this battlefield, and one that should make Zelensky all the more eager to agree to peace and stop the insanity.
So what does he do? He sends drones to Putin's house.
Exactly. Exactly. Again, you can't make it up. And almost as if they're trying to push
Start
it just
World
far
War
enough.
III?
Well, that's the danger, and we'll get to that at the end in our conclusion. But I think we have a few more.
Yeah, here's the video of the POW.
Yeah, and so this is Mirnograd, folks. And remember when we talked in Pakros, the town next to it is Mirnograd. It was surrounded. These guys have been, you know, surrounded for, I think, about 5 weeks now, maybe 6. So now they're coming out. This is one group of, I think, 25 prisoners coming out of the ground. And I applaud them. Why would you die in a hole or something that is already lost? They should have been evacuated a long time. Again, another massive leadership failure, and we're seeing it now empirically, the results of it.
All right, I won't play all that.
Yep, no, that was.
So next we have this one. Hold on, let me bring these up.
Yeah, so this is, again, I found this article, but it comes from a report on the ground that these 2 brigade commanders were fired, their staffs were fired, and you see Syrskyi, the military commander, sitting there. He's the one who fired them. And this is the unavoidable paradox of rigid, authoritarian, micromanaging leadership enterprises, and that's what the Ukraine military is. Syrskyi and his generals don't tell these brigades and battalions what's happening on the battlefield. They don't tell them. For instance, Syrskyi lied about Pakros all the way through, all the way up to when Pakros was completely controlled by the Russians. He was still saying, we control it, we have it. It's not true about Russia. And it's not, the downside isn't that you're lying to people. That's going to haunt you tremendously anyway. The downside is you're lying to your own people. You just took away that guy in Uye Puye. He's thinking, oh, I'm safe up north. It's all propaganda. The Russians didn't take Pakros. I'm okay. Well, he wasn't okay. And the guy down in Uye Puye should have started thinning the lines right when Pakros fell, because that's the main supply artery that goes down to Uye Puye. But this is what's happening. They just fired these brigade commanders and battalion commanders get into a situation where they either lie about what happened themselves or they're going to get fired too. So the lying just breeds more lying. The propaganda breeds more lying and failures, operational failures on the battlefield. And that's what you're seeing all around Eastern Ukraine right now.
All right, so I didn't do this video because it wasn't in English, but there you go.
No, but you don't need to do the video, but it's a good one because this is we showed this last week. This is one more. You see the guy, you can tell he has not been beaten or anything. He's talking about this same mission. We were supposed to take a video with a flag that we were going to hold in Kupiansk. And there's been a massive propaganda effort to try to show that Ukraine retook Kupiansk, but there's no videos. There's no troops on the ground in Kupiansk. Only these onesie. They've got videos of onesie and twosies and a couple flags. But this guy was caught. So the point of having this on here is it just complements the last point. This is what destroys militaries. There can't be trust. Once you start sending your guys on senseless missions, suicide missions, a suicide mission to take out a nuclear bomb whose timer is ticking down is a suicide mission that you'd accept. But a suicide mission that makes no sense is
just
doubly,
for political points for Zelensky.
Yes, it's doubly paradoxical. And that's what it was. It was political points during the negotiation period. These masters of the messaging, globalist messaging, decided let's just pretend like we're taking these cities. So what happens? It's the guys on the ground who suffer, the guys on the ground who were sent in on a suicide mission. And that guy, again, I tip my hat to him. He used common sense and surrendered. There's no reason to be dying for a picture that's not going to move any needle. Everyone knows these Ukrainian videos are usually either AI fakes or they're time fakes. They were taken many months ago and then touched up and shown as they were recent.
Here's the next one.
Yeah, so this is Ukraine announced, but the number is believed to be closer to 300,000. But Ukraine's admitting 200,000 soldiers deserted in 2025. So you almost can't. It's too hard of a number to wrap your head around, but it just says everything about the messaging and the logic of why Ukraine is fighting this war. It doesn't make sense even to its people. So how can we the people of the rest of the globe, support a war that the people who are supposed to be fighting it are willing to risk their lives, their livelihoods, their reputations to get out of because they're so convinced that it's so wrong?
Well, I have a mobilization video, so I'll play that now.
Yeah, it's a good one. So the new technique that these guys have been given when civilians come interfere, spray them with pepper spray. Watch what this thug does. He just sprayed a baby and a mother with pepper spray to get out of there.
Yeah.
And that's a daily thing. That's still how they are bringing new troops into the Ukrainian military. And I'll just, after that vid, I'll close with the statistic. The Russian military is made up of 80% volunteers. The 20% who are non-volunteers are mostly specialty MOSs or duty positions. All their nuclear, some of their engineers, they draft you like we did in wartime based on special skills. But they're fighting men, 80% of their military are volunteers. Ukraine military, 67% of their fighters are forced conscripts, which leaves only 33% as volunteers. And those guys are so worn out and beaten down from 4 years of fighting that they're not, you can't even call them 33%. But that's another just raw statistic that should tell anyone with common sense you can't win. And it's not so much just military things; it's the way you're organized and led that is preventing you from ever winning. And the reason that's so wrong is because their purpose doesn't make sense.
And the way they're conscripted, it's not like you get 2 months to get your affairs in order, say goodbye to your wife, kiss your
Right.
babies. You're just snatched off the street and never to be seen again. So
So
think
true,
about
Doc.
that. A woman has no, she relies on her husband maybe for her support, for her family support, and boom, he's gone. So not do you just have a dead man and no father, you have no support for the family. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
and that happens like that. So with
Yeah.
no warning. So I mean, think of the societal chaos and harsh, measures that brings to everyday life to people in Ukraine. It's just horrific. I've got one more video. I don't know, with the guy talking about, New Year's Eve. That was
Yeah, no, this is good. This is a video. This is the ex-Minister of Defense of Ukraine. This was taken 3 years ago to the date. And he's addressing Russians, the Russian citizens. Remember, the globalists' whole strategy here was to start a war to kill these ethnic Russians in order to create dissent in Russia, not to force. They didn't think Russia would ever come over. It was to create dissent in Russia, which would lead to an uprising and overthrow of Vladimir Putin. So that's why they did it. And 3 years ago today, you can see the just unbelievable lie. They, in an address to the Russian people, he tells them exactly what Ukraine's about to start doing to its own citizens. So go ahead.
Зовут Алексей Резников. Я министр обороны Украины. Накануне Нового года я обращаюсь к гражданам России, которые являются военнообязанными. В первую очередь это касается жителей крупных российских городов. Я точно знаю, что у вас осталась примерно 1 неделя, пока еще есть хоть какой-то выбор. В начале января российские власти закроют границы для мужчин, затем объявят военное положение и начнут очередную волну мобилизации. Границы тоже будут закрыты и в Беларуси. Сегодня вы думаете, чем украсить праздничный стол, и строите свои планы. Но за боем курантов вы можете не услышать стук в дверь. Это постучит военком. Особенно в городах, потому что в глубинке и так уже забрали многих.
Is that incredible?
Globalists are very good at projection. I have figured
Well,
out.
again, they trip over their own lies, and the lie that they're covering up right now is the lie they tried to perpetuate into Russia. And you just saw it. He described exactly what the video before you saw in the video before, and that's why we put him on like that, to disprove propaganda with facts and reality, and let you make the decision after it's all shaken out and objectively looked at. So, again, we just wanted to show the dichotomy between the peace talks and the keep the war going talks. It's not funny, except that it's so absurd, and it's double not funny because it's so serious what they're doing. They're blindly just walking through a minefield, and a blind person eventually will stumble accidentally onto one of those mines and blow themselves up and everything else around them. And that's what's happening here. These blind globalists from the EU and some in the US too are pushing this thing to continue, thinking we can just get another year, we'll spend some more money. But it's a year of potential stumbling into World War III. And if anyone can do it, it's those leaders we've shown already with their senselessness. And so once again, I'm just reiterating what we've said before. My New Year's Eve message to President Trump: sir, please make the best move you can make, which is the right thing to do for everyone and the most comprehensive safety and peace initiative you can do, and that's to meet with President Putin, come to agreement on a peace treaty between the US and Russia, declare that peace treaty as normalization of relationships between the U.S. and Russia on an economic front, on the diplomatic front, on the commercial civilian front. We should be vacationing in St. Petersburg next year. And finally, on the military front,
Well,
global exchanges.
if you want the golden age to come, make that bridge across Siberia and have economic flow back and forth between two huge Christian nations and see what happens. I mean, that will be an explosion. I want to bring one more thing up, kind of a sad note, but 3 American mercenaries were killed this week in Ukraine. Rest in peace. But warning to those, this is a meat grinder. So, don't be in the meat grinder is the message.
Yeah, and they're victims of the propaganda too. They went off to fight for something they did not understand. I don't know any of those 3, but I've had numerous discussions with guys on the ground and guys who work over there as contractors. And I can tell you this, none of us know of a single competent military operator, soldier who joined the resistance movement, who joined the Ukrainian military to fight against Russia. I don't know of one, none of my buddies do. And there's a reason for that, because we know war. And when you looked at this war, anyone with combat experience would say that makes no sense. And that's what most guys do. Unfortunately, this war created with open arms, hey, come and fight. And there's a lot of people out there who either didn't join the military and always wish they did, or joined and were thrown out for something, missed combat operations that they thought, is the culmination, what makes a career in Afghanistan, Iraq. And when offered the opportunity to go make amends for that, they jumped at this. But most of these, I have not seen one competent operator or soldier who joined the Ukrainian side, just outcasts, people who didn't get what they wanted. And those are not soldiers you want fighting on a complex, chaotic battlefield. You need experience, lots of it, and there's no shortcut to infantry experience. It requires months, if not years, of sleeping out in the cold, digging trenches, sneaking up on fake enemy, cleaning your weapon when you're dead tired at night, setting out aiming stakes, all the things infantrymen do. There's no way to get there without training and a lot of arduous suck it up events in between.
Pete Blaber, thank you very much. I think that was our best yet. So hopefully we'll make a difference and get this to the right people. So thank you again for coming on today, Pete. Really appreciate it.